Mrs. Marlene Kennedy was born and raised in the High Falls community, having attended High Falls Elementary School and graduating from Northmore High School in the class of 1974. After high school, she enrolled in the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree in early childhood education. Soon after graduating, she married her late husband, Frankie. Together, they had two children who also attended Westmore, Julia and Daniel. At the time of Mrs. Kennedy's college graduation, teaching positions were not easy to come by. But as fate would have it, a second grade teaching position opened up at Westmore Elementary with just 2 weeks remaining before the beginning of a new school year. Fortunately for our school and community, Mrs. Kennedy got the job. For the next 30 years, Marlene Kennedy made Westmore Elementary School her home away from home. Throughout those years, she sometimes found herself teaching first and second grades, but most of her time was spent in the kindergarten classroom.
I remember the first day walking in, I was very scared. And I remember Miss Kennedy meeting me at the door. And she just had a very calm, gentle, very sweet nature. And I remember I was not scared at all anymore. I was very excited to go to kindergarten every day. She made it fun. And I never dreaded going to school, even after that first day.
She made school, Westmore, a happy place for me, and kindergarten should be that way for the first year.
I had Mrs. Kennedy 40 years ago in kindergarten, and I did not love school and had not want to have anything to do with it, so she probably kept me from quitting in kindergarten. I would have if I could have.
She's just such a sweet person, and I was so happy when I knew my boys were going to have her for kindergarten. Because, you know, when you start your kids in kindergarten, that's a big life change. And knowing Marlene the way I did, I just felt so good about them going to school.
The first thing I remember about her is her smile. I remember walking in there being scared. I had been to preschool before, but that was only like an hour or two a day. And I remember, going in knowing I was going to have to stay there the whole day and being a little scared, but walking in and seeing her and smiling and caring and just being very comfortable going to school.
It felt like home and family, and it wasn't scary, because school is scary when you're little, and she just knew how to bridge the two. She knew how to make you feel at home. And I remember that still to this day.
You have to teach them how to tie their shoes. You have to teach them what a school is. You have to teach them how to stand in line, what it means to be orderly and mannerly, and probably give them some advanced training on potty training and everything else. So, when you plus tried to impart some education and knowledge, of reading and writing and math, and so I think kindergarten is actually probably one of the most challenging grades to teach, and Mrs. Kennedy was just such a professional and such and is such a good lady, so she gave us all a great start.
She just made school so fun for both of them. She really did. And they, to this day, talk about kindergarten. They remember it. And I'm just so thankful that they got started that way.
In her important role at Westmore, she stood at the doorway of education for so many of our children, welcoming them into kindergarten with a warmth that instantly made school feel like home. For countless students, she was their very first teacher, the one who calmed their fears, held their hands, and showed them that learning could be joyful. The foundation she built in those early years didn't just prepare students for the next grade. It gave them confidence, curiosity, and a belief in themselves that carried forward for a lifetime.
If you were to say, hey, tell me about your, when you were a kid, name a teacher, she's the first one that pops in my head. And I think the reason for that is not because she was my first teacher, it's because of the impact she left on me, of being kind. I remember her taking the time to teach us not only, instruction, but just how to behave at school to prepare us for, the next, essentially what, 18 years of your life on how you should, how to be a student, how to be taught, and how you're supposed to behave.
Now, as a mother, looking back, kindergarten is such an important year. And it's like that foundation, getting students excited for school and to love coming to school. And Miss Kennedy, did that for me from day one.
The biggest thing was the caring part, that she was so caring about us as children and wanted us to excel and exceed as we went along in our education.
Marlene Kennedy is a Westmore legend because she spent years here nurturing kids and teaching them, and lots of kids, when they would come back, they would always come back and visit her, even when they were gone and grown or had kids of their own and came back. They loved to come back and reminisce of the times that they had spent with her in her classroom.
She knew what it was like to have a child that age, and she just had the most loving, caring way about her. And again, I think just embodied that integrity, where you knew is every day you're going to deal with the same person and she's going to have the same gentle, kind way. And that for a kindergartner is so important and is so welcoming.
So good with all of them. That whole class, she just had them in the palm of her hand. And I don't know how, because she never raised her voice that I ever heard. Just as sweet as she could be, but she brought the best out of them.
When I first read about the legend, she's the first one that popped in my head. I guess because that was my first memory of Westmore. She was just a staple here.
She had a rare gift, the ability to see each child not just as a student, but as a whole person. Her classroom was a place where kindness was taught by example, where patience was endless, and where every child felt seen, valued, and loved. The impact of that kind of environment is reflected in the lives of the many students who walked through her classroom and went on to succeed because she believed in them first.
She was so kind and loving and just the embodiment of what you would think that a person that you would trust with your child. Just a wonderful, wonderful lady.
And she was one of those people, I don't think I've ever seen her really get mad. And I do remember her disciplining kids in our class, but she did it with such a quiet nature and a whole lot of grace. And as a teacher now, that takes a lot of patience. And she, like I said, she was probably one of the sweetest, most kind teachers I think I ever had.
She took the extra time, and she wasn't just, hey, I'm here to teach, but I'm here to care about you and make sure that you're looked after.
When I think of Westmore, she was the most nurturing person. You could just feel her heart and her care and just the way she looked at you.
She was very nurturing to the kids. They would come in if they weren't having a good day to begin with. I've seen her pick the kid up, take them and sit in the rocking chair and rock them and just love on them like they were her own child.
Her professionalism and her respect for each individual child sets Miss Kennedy apart.
She paid special attention to kids who maybe had something going on in their lives and made them feel like they belonged there. And looking back, that means a lot.
Her influence at Westmore didn't stop with her students. She was also a mentor, a guide, and an inspiration to fellow educators and future educators. New teachers look to her not just for advice, but for a model of what it truly means to be a great teacher. Through her example She showed others how to lead with compassion, how to teach with purpose, and how to make every child feel important.
Marlene was my mentor when I first started teaching. Mr. Williams assigned her as my mentor, and I was blessed because she was my mentor. She was very easy to work with. She taught me lots of good information and lots of strategies and useful things that I could do in the classroom to help me become a better teacher.
Just a lot of stuff that we do in the classroom. It reminds me of things that we did with her. And I use a lot of the stuff, ideas that I pull it from my memory, to do it with our kids.
Her door was always open for me anytime I needed anything. All I had to do was go in there and ask, and she would graciously and kindly guide me and steer me in the right direction.
After retiring from Westmore in 2008, Mrs. Kennedy has spent most of her time enjoying her family and especially cherishing moments well spent with her 5 grandchildren: Sydney, Jennings, Haley, Andrew, and Cameron.
She was here from the time she started teaching until retirement. The kids loved her. She influenced so many kids' lives, and she's just a great teacher.
I mean, I loved every teacher that I had at Westmore. I learned something different from everyone, but Miss Kennedy is the most memorable to me.
I became best friends with Julia in the first grade, and so she went from being teacher to almost like a second mother. And so, I was just blessed to have her as a teacher and then get to stay in her life longer than that.
When we reflect on her legacy, it isn't just the years she spent teaching. It's the generations she helped shape. It's in the confidence of a child walking into school for the first time, the steady hand of a young teacher finding their way, and the countless lives made better because of her care.